Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Unleashing Potentials podcast. So, joining me today is special guest Allison. Hi, Allison. How are you?
Good. How are you, Bernadette?
I'm great, I think. No, it's fall here and it's just gray, cold, and blah. So, yeah, other than that, great. I'm just happy to have you on.
Thanks. Yeah, excited to be here. I won't tell you how sunny it is down by me right now then.
I believe you, though. It's pretty nice, very sunny most of the time, different parts in the States, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Allison, can you tell us who you are and what you do?
Sure. I am an executive coach and a fractional CMO. I have a couple roles. I was 30 years in tech, and I was often the only woman in the room, and I realized I didn't have anybody in my corner.
Mm.
And that it was rough. It was tougher than it needed to be. And so in 2016, I left my corporate job to go back to school so I can go be a resource for people who would thrive better with a champion and a challenger in their corner, because I know how powerful it is. And so I changed. I also work for a lot of startups, and so I do some consulting on the side. And right now I'm just started as a fractional chief marketing officer for an AI tech company. So that's fun. Keeps my techie brain going while I do my passion, which is coaching.
Yeah, that's really cool. Thank you for sharing. Um, you're right when it comes to not having enough women in the tech industry. I interviewed someone who used to be in the tech industry. What was your experience like there?
There's no overall overarching thing because every experience was different. I mean, throughout my career, from education through career, I worked with some really great people who didn't see gender, just saw skills. And then I worked for other people that, a very direct, outspoken girl from the streets of Chicago, they didn't like, they didn't want me there, and I wanted it to be a boys' club. But most, and some of it was on, there were some definitely conscious, and there was a lot of unconscious good people that didn't realize that they weren't creating the right environment. So I worked for a lot of really good people who just really had a lot of blind spots when
Mhm.
it came to how they were taking care of the onlys, the only woman or the only minority, the only gay, the only, whatever. They didn't realize that they weren't creating the right environment for them. But I worked for a lot of great people, and I'm so lucky that I had so many good mentors along the way. But I didn't have that one person, that confidant.
Mm.
Nothing against the HR industry, but I learned early on in my career, HR is there to protect the company, not the individual.
Yeah.
And so when I was struggling at one of my companies because of being the only woman, I realized that they didn't have my back. And so that really got me thinking about how I can support the onlys. I joke around and nickname myself the champion of the onlys. It doesn't have to be a woman in tech. It could be somebody that just feels like they're the only one like them in the workforce, and they don't have somebody
Mhm.
to have their back.
Yeah, you're right. It's rough. It can be rough. I'm glad you found your purpose through that, though. Sometimes it takes us going through some challenges and unexpected things to happen for us to find purpose and meaning. Uh,
Yeah, this coach gave me
yeah.
this great analogy. It's like there's this beautiful blanket of snow, and I go through it first, and I've created the path so I can make it easier for the other ones to come behind me.
Ooh, I
And
love that.
isn't that a great visual? I love that. I wish I see her picture. I'd give her the credit for that analogy, but I can't remember her name right now. And so it really is about giving people the path, taking everything I've learned, the good and the bad, the mistakes I made, because my journey, I definitely had some times where I probably could have had somebody tell me, Allison, you're you're too much here, you're not enough here. And but by having going through all the experiences I have, it really gives me the tools to have empathy with my clients, because their journey is my journey. And so I can we create a really strong bond quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. So earlier you mentioned that you're fractional CMO. I've never heard of that. Can you tell us what that is?
So one of the trends now is that for a lot of roles in the executive roles, they don't need a company doesn't need somebody full time, especially early on. So a lot of people have become fractional chief marketing officers or fractional chief financial officers or HR. And so you can either, like I have my coaching business and then I also do this, or some people might be a fractional, chief financial officer for multiple companies. So it's really been a trend in the last years where, the companies aren't ready to bring on somebody full time, but they still need that marketing person, that financial person, that HR person, that operational person. And so I had small little gigs, but this is a technology I've worked with in the past that's been splintered off to a new company, and it's really exciting. And so I'm working, me and the boys, me and 5 guys right now, but they're wonderful. And it's a technology, that's current and trending. So it's fun. So it's hard sometimes because I have to go from the brain of, a coach, which is I don't have the answers. I'm helping my clients find their answers. And then when I'm in the marketing, I am the answer. I have the solution. And so you have to decide, figure out which way your brain is going. Who am I in that moment to serve my client the best? Yeah.
Yeah. Do you find that it's challenging to do both all the time?
I think like yesterday or Monday, the operations guy from the startup's like, hey, I want to talk to you about, we're going for funding right now. And I said, I need 15 minutes. And I just said, I knew I needed 15 minutes to change gears, to finish my thoughts, what I was doing. So as long as I put, boundaries is something I'm really big on, and setting good, healthy boundaries. So I know I need 15 minutes to switch gears. That if I want to be completely, so my brain isn't thinking about that incomplete thing in the past, and that I can give them the courtesy of being present and having my mind in that mindset. So I always ask for about 15 minutes when I need to switch gears.
Okay, yeah, that's really cool. Are you also a swimmer, or have you been a swimmer?
Yeah, I was a competitive swimmer in grammar, from grammar school through college, and it actually paid for some of my college, which was great.
Wow, I'm so excited to talk to a swimmer because I'm a sinker. I
That's probably because you're lean and have no body fat.
I cannot swim for the life of me. I stay away from deep water. That is so cool. How long did you swim for? Was it
I
years?
swam competitively from 7 through midway through college when I got injured and I had to stop. And then when I moved to California, I got into triathlons. And so I swam through, doing triathlons. And I'm actually just thinking about starting to swim again. I was for a while, and I haven't been, and I'm thinking about starting to swim again.
That's so cool. You know, when I go to the pool, I see the 2 or 3 year old just swimming. And I'm just standing there watching them swim. It's beautiful. It's insane. But yeah,
Yeah,
that's really cool.
yeah, we started young. So my mom, my maternal grandfather died on a ship in a hurricane off the east coast of California during the war on a Navy ship. And so my mom had this fear of water. So my dad and my uncle and aunt wanted to get my sister and I in the pool, so we didn't have my mom's fear. And then my mom was a big athlete, and her tennis partner was the local swim coach. And so she got my sister and I into it, and we ended up having a knack for it. We actually both got scholarships, and it was a big part of our life. So yeah.
Really cool. Did you ever make it to the Olympics, or was
I
that
was
need
no
to?
in age group, and I went to age group nationals from all through high school, and I was 9th in the nation in age group nationals. But now I made it to a Division I swim team and had so that was good. But now I'm short. I'm only 5'4", so I'm pretty happy with the level I swam at, being only 5'4".
Yeah, that's really cool. You also dive with sharks.
Well,
Oh
I'm a swimmer. I love the water, right? So I'm a scuba diver. And when I started diving a little later. Even though I'm an athlete, I'm an asthmatic, and I didn't know I could dive. And then when my doctor's like, you can dive, I'm like, cool. And so I started diving a lot, and you'd be diving and sharks would be swimming by you. And then I was like, wow, this is cool. So then I did some places. I haven't done the cage diving, but like I went to Fiji to dive with the bull sharks.
Mhm.
For my birthday one year, we were on a boat nicknamed it Dolphin. We were basically following wild pods of dolphins around for the week and swimming with them. And overnight we put some like bloody ropes in and chummed up sharks uh, threw a bunch of food in and then jumped down with them. And then if you do a lot of diving, you see sharks a lot because and when you're on the bottom, you don't really look like food. It's really on your way up. You have to be a little more careful, but you try to go with I go with, with people who know the areas and when you're with the group. But yeah, I think I've lost count, 7 or 9 different types of sharks so far.
Wow. If I see
Yeah.
sharks, I run.
Well, on the surface is different. Yeah, I'm a stand-up paddleboarder and I haven't run into sharks yet. And people are like, are you gonna be scared? I'm like, I don't know. I mean, it's different when you're on the bottom because you don't, you look more like bait. Even when we train in the ocean for swimming,
Mhm.
the first time I'm from Chicago, so the first time I came out here, I was swimming for a master's team and our pool was closed. So we did an ocean swim and all the guys at work were doing the jaws, but all day. And when we're out in the ocean, somebody touched my leg and I freaked out and I kicked him in the chest and swam away and it felt so terrible. But the guys at work had got me all worked up about the jaws thing. So yeah, yeah, you try to just realize that the probability is really, really small that
Yeah.
something's gonna
Yeah. I was just playing that song last week. I was painting Halloween stuff. Halloween,
happen.
and I just put it on. Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. So did you travel much or do you still travel? You said you went to Fiji. Where else did you go?
I've been a lot of places, and a lot of places multiple times. And my dog's named Kiwi after New Zealand. I've been there twice. Second time I quit my job to go hike the Great Walks of New Zealand by myself. I've been to, Thailand. I've been to Indonesia, climbed and hiked into volcanoes there. I've been all over Europe, all over the Caribbean. I've been to, many countries in South America. I go to Central America a lot, Guatemala and Belize. So
Hmm.
yeah, I've been traveling around the US. So yeah, I'm somebody who I stayed in a lot of roles instead of going promotions because I wanted to travel. And they basically said, if you get this role, you can't take all of, I'm like, well, I go on vacation. And I remember when I went to Peru to hike Machu Picchu and I told my bosses I wasn't taking my phone or my laptop. They're like, what? I'm like, I'm not going to have electricity most of the time I'm there,
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, it's in my blood. When I was working full time and going to graduate school, I took a leave of absence to go to Australia, New Zealand, and Fiji, and then I got the bug. And so yeah,
Ooh.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's really very adventurous.
Yeah, I don't know where that came. Well, my mom was a big traveler, so I got the spirit from her. And my sister was very ill when we were younger, and you realize life is precious. And then when I lost a friend, you realize life is precious, and you need to go live it because
Mm.
I a lot of the things I did, I couldn't wait till I retire. I'm not going to be able to do these things in my 60s. So I'm in my 20s and 30s and 40s, and I'm fit and healthy. I can do a lot more crazy stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of crazy, tell me more about your near-death experience. What did you do and how?
Well, I didn't do anything. So when I turned 40, they found out that I was born with a bad part in my heart. One of my valves was not fully formed.
Mm,
And so it was just being checked every year. And because I stay healthy, it never got worse.
mhm,
And they said it was going to be, decades before it was an issue. And then in March of 2020, right before the shutdown,
mhm,
uh, on an easy bike ride, I started having some chest pain. And then I couldn't get into the hospital for a while because of COVID. And it turned out that the valve was failing rapidly.
mhm,
And during the surgery, don't know if it was because I'm an asthmatic, my heart, they couldn't get me off bypass and they had to put me in a state of suspended animation for 6 days. So coma-like state where typical 20 to 40% people come off the type of device I was on.
yeah.
And this is during COVID. So then you wake up alone in the hospital and in and out of the hospital for a few months, had some setbacks and then just had to rebuild my life. Literally, I had to learn to walk again. The device that kept me alive was on my right groin and it flattened all the nerves in my legs. So my right foot wasn't working.
Mhm,
And we had somebody come over for therapy once, but with COVID, I was so vulnerable. If I got it, I wasn't coming out of it. So I looked at my partner and I told him, well, I've been an athlete my whole life. I know my body better than anybody. Let's do this together. So we did it together and rehabbed me and said lots of setbacks, but fortunately, right now the road's good and hopefully I won't have to have surgery again for 15 or 20 years. And
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's really cool. That you don't have to go through that for a while. That must have been terrifying. I can only imagine.
yeah, it's weird because I had to get my will and together and everything, and I shut down my company because I'm like, well, if the worst case happens, I don't want someone to figure out who do I owe, what clients do I owe money to,
Mhm.
uh, and then COVID, so your family can't come out and take care of you, your friends. I was in a new relationship. We're only together 4 months, and happy ending. We're still together, but he, after 4 months of dating, said, "I'll take care of you." And we didn't know about the complications of the in and out of the hospital and the immobility. And I was really, lucky that I had met somebody that was willing to be in the trenches with me and help me fight to take my life back.
Wow, wow. That's very inspiring to hear. I love hearing stories like yours.
Yeah.
Speaking of,
You
yeah, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, your potentials thing here. I mean, one of the things that happened that I talk about is I came home on a walker, and the second day on the walker, I'm like, no, a walker is not going to be part of my story.
Oh,
And there's these pivotal moments in choice in life where we have to decide who we're going to be.
mm-hmm,
And I did it's victim or victor. And I heard from my doctors, a lot of people get depressed. They don't rebound after things like this, especially with all the complications that I had. And I looked at my partner and I said, get rid of the walker. I don't want to see it. And literally, I don't want that in my story. That's not, I just don't, I wanted Allison back.
mm-hmm,
So I literally held onto his arm till I could hold onto his hand. And, until I could do it by myself, whether it was one house, then one block, and slowly built back up. And then when I'd be back in the hospital, then we had to try not to lose it again. But
mm,
yeah, it was really about these pivotal moments of choice, and I wanted my life back. That's
yeah,
what if people say, how did you recover? I said, it's simple. I made a decision. I want my life back.
yeah, yeah. That's really awesome. Yeah, I was in an interview. That's the exact answer I gave. I made a decision. It's
Yeah.
a choice, to overcome those challenges we face, and how we come out is completely up to us. And it shows that you did make a decision and you're continuing to make decisions, which is
Yeah.
empowering.
I just believe by the time we make our coffee or tea in the morning, we've already made dozens of choices, and so many of them are by habit or by expectation.
Mhm,
And you can start adding intention on those choices. You
mhm,
can change the whole trajectory of your life. But we
mhm,
just, we make choices based on, what other people expect of us. And
mhm.
when you take ownership of your choices, it's amazing what you can create.
Yeah, 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 I agree. Yeah, I was gonna say, do you see life in a different lens after what you've been through?
I get asked that question a lot, and people are very disappointed in my answer, because I don't. Because I was first off, you have to remember, I was unconscious, so I don't know that I was that close to death, right? So there was a part of me that had a different experience, right? Because I was so out of it. But I had already lived with gratitude. I'd already quit my corporate job to, live the life I want. I mean, the first year I quit my job, I spent half my time in Hawaii. So I was already living this life. So what the awareness was I wasn't living a life that I needed to escape from. Where a lot of people are like, God, I mean, I love my life. So that was reassuring. The one thing I say, if I had one regret, is that how hard I am on myself and how hard I've been on myself. And I wish I had been kinder to myself on this journey of life that I've had, and still working on that because of trying to recover and get your body back, your physicality back, and your energy back, and all those challenges. But
Mhm.
um, I was already I think I'm very lucky, that most people don't go through that, and they have these big epiphanies. And my epiphany was that you're doing it right, girl.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And also, as an athlete, I've never been a professional athlete. The mindset that they have to continue. Failure is not an option, to keep going and going and going. Thank you for sharing that you've been hard on yourself, because you're not alone. I think at times in life, most of us do that to ourselves. Um, it could be that we don't want to quit. Quitting is not an option.
Yeah, but you can still be kinder to yourself along the way. I mean, I think it could be, cultural expectations, family expectations, societal explanations, social media expectations of how you're supposed to be, right? And so it's good to have goals and
Mhm.
push for them and challenge yourself. but you can also be kind to yourself in the journey. You know, for example, now I've changed when I do a call with a client or even here, I don't sit there and say, oh, what did you do wrong? I look at what did I do right? What do I, you know, what did I like that I did? What would I like to improve on and what would I learn? And that's kinder. Not what did you do wrong? What did you learn?
Yeah.
And so just by changing the way we talk to ourselves
Mhm.
is help us be kinder. And it's just hard as women, especially, we're really hard on ourselves. And we let society kind of create these dialogues because if I told my friends the things I'm hard about myself on, they'd be like, what? You know, so it's amazing that we don't, if we saw ourselves the way everybody else saw us, we'd probably be a lot kinder to ourselves.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. Yeah. Speaking of, are you a coach and what type of coaching do you do, Allison?
You know, there's, it really is breakthrough coaching. It really is, you know, the way I describe it, my friends asked me once, I showed up late for a party and to get ribs, the last ribs, they're like, you have to tell us your life purpose. And I'm like, oh, that's easy. I've known this even before I was a coach. I'm a catalyst. So if you think of what a catalyst is, all the ingredients are there for an amazing reaction. And sometimes you're just missing that drop. I'm that drop that causes the reaction to help people figure out, you know, if they don't know what they want, what is it they want? How is it, what would a life aligned with your values look like? Because when we're aligned with our values, life is amazing, right?
Mhm.
What's in the way? You know, what perspectives do we need to see that we can't see? What skills do we need to develop? So it really is about breaking through whatever is holding you back to ascend to whatever the next level is. I do a lot in the tech industry because I come there, but I coach everybody really. It's just, you know, the marketing person, you know, has to, you know, you have to narrow it down, right? I help, but
Mm.
it really is anybody that, you know, wants to get to that next level and knows that having someone in their corner to be their champion, but also their challenger, you know, to be someone that is able to say to them, you know, this is not serving you. This is, you know, or there's probably a better way to communicate that.
Yeah.
You know, I have a great client who didn't realize that their communication was really off-putting. And so just teaching them to see the perspective that the other people are in. And I
Mhm.
work with a lot of, you know, new leaders or newly promoted leaders who haven't are still taking ownership of that role and what that means to be a leader. Uh,
Mhm.
and a lot of my coaching in life, we're so much focused on the doing. And my coaching is a lot about the being. Like if you know, understand who do you want to be as a leader? Who do you want to be as an entrepreneur? Who do you want to be as a podcast host? The doing is a result of knowing who you want to be. But we're so brainwashed to think about the doing first. And so a lot of coaching is slowing down the people to understand who do they want to be? How do they want to walk through this world? What do you want to be known for? What do you be known as? And then we can figure out how to move forward. But we're so judged by what we do that we forget to think about who we want to be.
Yeah, yeah. And so many of us, we've been imprinted, if I may put it that way, by family custom or how we were raised. And sometimes those are very hard cycles to break out of.
Yes.
How can people continue to break through even when they feel broken?
Well, the family cycles is interesting. I I have I'm Jewish and I have a lot of clients who tend to be Indian, Southeast Asian, and it's like we all had the same mom. You know, so we all have that same family expectations of, you know, make a better, we got you here, better life. And there's a pressure, right? And then even when you've accomplished from the outside world's view of success, you never feel like you're successful, right? And there's other ways it manifests itself. The familiar expectations is the first thing is awareness, is just to know that that's happening. Just by pointing it out to, just had a client recently pointed it out. And I'm actually writing a book on permission and asking them to give themselves permission to change that narrative. Like, what would that look like? And they might not know yet because there's no one size fits all for everybody. Some people just the awareness is enough to be
Yeah.
like, oh, didn't realize I was doing it. Others, like the imprint is deeper and
Mhm.
more layers. And so we have to do it, you know, we have to come up with a step-by-step plan. We don't have to shatter their comfort zone, but we need to start pushing against it a
Mhm.
little bit at a time and build some new muscles.
Yeah. Yeah.
in coaching, we call it like neural pathways. So your thoughts have kind of created these pathways, right? And you
Mhm.
have to create new ones, but these other ones are deeper. So it's going to take a long time to create these new channels. And so that's what coaching is about, is really helping you find ways to create these new pathways, but do it in a way that isn't painful.
Yeah, yeah, it can be painful. Just healing in general, I find it's very painful. How would you describe your career to someone who doesn't know what it is?
As a coach.
Yeah, yeah, but there's so many different types of coaches. That's why I always ask specifically.
Well, if you think about it, we'll use the sports analogy. If you know Michael Phelps, right? He had a
Yeah,
coach. His
yeah.
coach didn't swim the laps for him, but his coach gave him the structure and the workouts to get for success, right? That's what a coach is. You are still doing the work. I
Mhm,
am not, as a consultant, I'm doing the work. As a coach, you're doing the work. I'm helping you figure out what is that workout, whether it's whether it's a mindset or a skill set to get you to your goal. And so it's no different than an athletic coach. It's just, we're not doing the work, and each person gets an individual, every coaching is different. So it really is about having a partner on the ride, a thinking partner. Imagine if you had, because your friends are great, but they have a biased opinion, right? Your bosses you can't always talk to because you don't want to tell your boss I feel overwhelmed or I feel scared. So a
mhm.
coach is not, we don't come with any judgment. We don't come with any opinions. We come clearly to support the person. So what a gift in life it is to have something completely focused on you,
Mhm, mhm. Yeah,
anybody else, and nobody opinions, my opinion. So it's a beautiful thing that it's so hard until someone experiences it to know the power of it. But you can really be seen, heard, and valued without judgment and
mhm,
no expectations.
mhm.
And so it's a beautiful sacred space created between the coach and the client.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And at times, I think most of us, we misunderstand the role of therapy or counseling or different areas that there are professions and people that can help us heal. Um, Sometimes we assume that those people can fix us or make us what
Yeah.
we want to be, but we need to do the work with them, but also by ourselves. What are your thoughts?
Well, first off, I don't think people need fixing. I don't think we're broken. Our coaching school has a philosophy. People are creative, resourceful, and whole. They're not broken. They don't need fixing.
Yeah.
They help making intentional choices and seeing broader perspectives, right? So I don't fix people. I work with amazingly wonderful people who
Mhm,
want to deepen the impact they're going to make in the world. They want to be in more of a flow state and less of a fight state.
mhm, mhm.
But nobody's broken.
Yeah, yeah,
we
it's
we
true.
just have a set of experiences and perspectives that might need to be changed.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. What is one thing about yourself that you'll never change?
My directness, my fearlessness. I think I march to a beat than different people. I mean, I'm a shark diver, a Division I swimmer, a woman in tech. I've always done whatever was in my heart, even if it wasn't the norm. And I'll never change that. And then the fearlessness. I won't jump. I don't have like an adrenaline fearlessness, but my fearlessness allows me to, with one of my fellow coaches says, I can shift somebody more in a session than they can in 3 to 5 because I see it, and I'm fearless for my clients. And
Mhm.
I'm direct, but I'm direct in a way that helps my clients expand, not shrink. Like if I make them feel bad, then that's the job of the coach. But if I have them be like, oh, I
Yeah.
hadn't seen that before, I didn't realize that might have been what's getting in the way, then it's succeeding. So being fearless and direct are two things I'll never change.
I love that. Would you say you love your past or your future more, or both?
I don't think of things in that context. I'm grateful for my past because I like where I'm at, and I'm excited for my future. My partner and I are buying a house together. We have,
Mm,
planned to retire in a few years and travel. And
mhm,
so I'm excited about, this new future, this new person, been in my life for 4 years now.
mhm,
But I don't think of these in those contexts. I'm grateful
mhm,
because I know I've been, being all over the world as an athlete, my startups and the friendships and the crazy things we've done, thank God, before social media. um, Oh, I'm so grateful that I had all those experiences because I like who I am now. And if I hadn't had all those experiences, I wouldn't say I like who I've become. At the-
Mm, yeah, yeah, I love that. Um, when it comes to boundaries, how do you apply that with working with your clients? Let's say they have poor boundaries and they're just struggling.
Yeah, well, we have to figure out boundary. Not setting boundaries is usually not about boundaries. It's like time management. It's usually about time, right?
Yeah.
So I do a lot of work. There's this work called positive intelligence, and
Mhm.
it's the concept of we all have the judge, the self-judge, but we also have these additional saboteurs. So you can be a perfectionist, you can be a pleaser, you can be an avoider. So it's often curious to see which of those are dominant, because then we can kind of figure out why you're having trouble with your boundaries. But boundaries could be fear, because your fear of not being liked if you don't say something, your fear if they think that if you say, hey, I got to pick up my kids, I can't do this, that they're going to think you're not important. Boundaries can be because you're trying too hard to prove, there's a proof thing there. So we have to understand what's underneath the struggle with that boundary, and then we can start addressing it.
Mhm.
But it really usually is not about time management. It's about fear.
Yeah, yeah. I love that you went straight to it because there's normally a root cause. It's like a tree with many branches, many leaves, but at the end of the day, the root is providing life in a way to the tree. So does the sun and whatnot, just from a different perspective or angle to keep it alive, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And I often think that root is a story, right? And the question is, what's the source of that story, and is that story true? Because that's a lot of what we see with my clients. Is like, I've one of my favorite coaches, Rick Tamlin, would say, if it's all made up anyway, why don't we make up good stories, right? But we have these stories, and we've adopted other stories that other people wrote for us, or we think they wrote for us, because we created them because we are scared of stepping forward, whatever that is. So there's some story in there that isn't serving you, but
Mhm,
that you're holding on to really tightly. And
mhm,
that's often why you have trouble setting a boundary.
mhm,
And you have to understand, what is that story? What is that fear?
mhm,
And really get in there and start looking at it. And, I've had some clients cry when they realize what they're holding on to. And when they finally release it, and it's scary and beautiful and wonderful. And it's just it's like all of a sudden you're out of the darkness when you realize
mhm,
that just a single story could be just the one thing that's anchoring you from getting
mhm.
to your higher potential.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. As you were speaking, I was thinking of generational trauma. I was gonna say drama, but it does carry on, but trauma.
Yeah.
And in my case, at least, that's something that's very deep that I still have to work with um, throughout years because it's imprinted and it's something. If something's imprinted, I- it takes a personal type of strength and work to detach from it, if that makes sense.
It does. And, that's why, coaching isn't therapy. So I want to make sure, people know that, that therapy is a beautiful, wonderful thing, and helps you often get to the source of things, where coaching tries to be more forward looking in general. Right. And so a lot of clients have, that are doing deep work, might have both a therapist and a coach. So,
Mhm.
if it gets to a point where we're dealing with deep, like, trauma things or things, then I would recommend therapy, because that's not, I'm not a trained therapist, right? I'm a certified coach, but I'm not a therapist. So
Mhm.
you have to figure out, do I need therapy? Therapy is often, do I want to kind of get back into that root and
Mhm.
really go backwards? And then at the same time, go forwards with a coach and build the roadmap
Mhm.
of tools I want forward. But
Mhm.
they're
Mhm.
definitely both very, very important modalities.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Tell me more about your coaching company, Dare to Be. Is that correct? How did
Yes.
you come up with the name? I love it.
So it's actually pretty funny. It used to be called Success Acceleration, and
Oh,
my next door neighbor was my editor. Fortunately, she passed away last year. Was my editor and friend, neighbor for 20 years, and she goes, "That name's not big enough." And in my head, I'm like, "Just stay in your lane and edit, right?" And then in California, the 405 freeway is one of the main Los Angeles freeways. And I'm with some friends. We're coming back from doing a 3D virtual reality thing. And we're in the car. And I look up and there's a Dare to Be billboard. And I looked at them and I said, I think that's the name of my company. And everybody's like, yes. And then I reached out and talked to them. They're like, yes, because I dared to be, I dare to do this. And you want to dare people to live the highest power of their life. And so I bought a bottle of my neighbor's favorite champagne and put it on her doorstep and like, thank you for challenging me to find the new name. But yeah, so Dare to Be. And I didn't want the name to be, a lot of coaches, their name is the company, but my coaching isn't about me, it's about my clients. And so I didn't want my name to be the name of the company.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. I do. Throughout your journey, have there been some resources or things that you do to help you?
Yeah, I mean, in general, travel helps me, right? And even though I'm in a great relationship, traveling by myself is really important to me. Like after I finally got, back up on my own, I like going up to Central California and just going by myself while my partner was traveling. It was just important for me to remember that I went through this thing and I was vulnerable and I needed support, but I'm still that girl that can take off on her own. And do things. So travel's a big part of it. I have amazing people in my life. I have which helps. And I'm always open to learning what I don't know. I think it's just being I think I'm really curious.
Mhm.
Almost annoyingly so if you ask people, but I'm very curious
Ah.
and love to learn. But yeah, it's just and I'm really good at coaching myself, which is funny, even though I do have a coach and therapist as I need. I'm really good at walking myself through and saying, okay, if I was the client, what would I do here? And I have I'm able to kind of figure out, okay, this is where I'm getting in my own way. Now, what do I need to do about it?
Yeah.
But I'm surrounded by amazing people, which really, really helps. When you're a coach and you're part of a big coaching community, you always have like-minded people. And then I live at the beach, so I'm a block from the beach. So if I really need to get
Oh, I'm so jealous.
yeah, I walk down to the beach and listen to the waves. That's pretty nice, especially during the day in the off season. You can be down there by yourself.
Oh, that's so cool. I haven't seen a actual beach in a very long time. That's really cool. Yeah, you must feel connected somehow to nature or the water.
Yeah, it's funny. Well, my personal email is a variation of Dolphin Girl, so I love the water, but I like nature. We just got back. My partner has a family has a cabin in the far northern Sierras, like literally at 50 to 100 miles away from like a major town, and we're just in the forest and hiking and fishing, and so nature or the water, either one is really a big part of my regular.
I love water. The podcast logo is of water.
Yeah, same. So my Dare to Be podcast is a combination of a wave, and
Mhm.
then I love New Zealand, the Maori spiral, which is about unfurling new growth.
Yeah.
And so there's the power of the wave and the new growth were combined to make my logo.
Mhm. Tell me more about your podcast. How long have you started it?
Oh no, I don't have a podcast.
Oh, I thought you started a podcast. Sorry.
No, I'm a frequent podcast guest, but we'll see. My coach and I are working on the next year business plan, so we'll see if doing that. And if it's so, it would really be about interviewing inspirational women.
I think you'd make a excellent co-host or host. Uh, yeah, I have a feeling you might go there, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it really, again, I don't, people would want to tune in just to hear me talk. So I'm blessed with a lot of amazing connections. And so it would really about, hearing the stories and really from the street, right? Not from the ivory tower. Because yes, on paper, it looks like everything was successful, but it was really hard. I mean, a lot of companies tried to get rid of me because
Mhm.
um, whatever their story, could say this or that, but I was a strong woman and not everybody wanted you there. And I had some really bad experiences where my physical health
Yeah.
suffered the stress of it all. And I started believing their stories about me. So I didn't just, what's not interesting are perfect journeys. The imperfect journeys are what's interesting. And so I really would like to have people talk about their imperfect journeys so that people can say, oh, she went through that and she still came out the other side. I can do it too.
Yeah, I love that. Speaking of journey, what's next in your journey?
Ah, it's I'm writing my first book called Permission. Well, it's right, working title is Permission, but it's really about the power of permission and what it can do. And then I have another book already, a journal doing that. So becoming an author
Mhm.
is probably next. I did some speaking in the last few years that I'd like to really do more speaking once my book is out. So that's like a whole new chapter. And then for me, it's about how many people can I serve and help, and how many people can, I mean, when I have clients tell me that I've changed their life, I nothing makes me happier.
Yeah.
And so I want to be a catalyst to as many more people as I can. So, we're working on our business plan for next year and what the components of that, and offer some more group programs so we can build community, and see what else we're going to create.
Yeah, that's awesome. What are some key takeaways that you want my audience to get from this episode?
Well, first off, that you are creative, resourceful, and whole, and you're not broken.
Ooh,
Yeah, you might need new perspectives, you might need some mindset, you might need some skill set, but you're amazing already,
yeah,
right? Don't let the world say you're broken. A situation might have broken you, a death, a breakup in that moment, but as a person, you are not broken. You are just going through.
mhm,
And so take that judgment off.
yeah,
Realize you're already amazing.
yeah. Thank you. I needed to hear that. I use the word broken because that's how I used to see myself, and also broken to completely shatter and break something and to rebuild it by myself. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's funny. I call it the bounce. So I always say when I hit rock bottom, well, I can't bounce back up until I hit the bottom. So I'm like, so where's the bottom? So I can start bouncing, right? But I don't think I'm broken in the process. I might be lost. I might be misguided. I mean, like trying to build your own company, boy, did I make mistakes. I invested in the wrong people and good people, but they weren't the right fit.
yeah,
And coaching school trains you all up, but they don't teach you how to build a business. And I've made mistakes. And I could look back at my career and there were times that I wish I had more skills. Like now, one of the things I'm an expert on is communication, but I didn't have that back then as much.
mhm,
Um, but so that's one takeaway, is that you're already amazing,
yeah,
right? And that coaching is about helping you increase that impact that you want to make and see who you want to be and find a path to it. But you're already amazing. I
yeah.
think would one of the
I
biggest
love that.
takeaways.
I love that. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Um, where can my listeners find you?
Well, LinkedIn is where I spend most of my time. So if you're in business and if you're looking to get promoted, I have a newsletter that says choose what's next, pivot or promotion. And I
Mhm,
talk about strategies, but for that.
mhm.
Um, and then because this was like, we're teaching you highest potential, I do have something I wrote about 10 ways you think you're stuck, but you're actually not.
Oh,
And if you go to idaretobemore.com, and that's the number 2, and the 2 stands for mindset and skill set.
mhm.
So idaretobemore.com, you can download 10 ways you may think you're stuck and you're not, so you can get to that highest potential.
Ooh, I love that. Last question for you. What is the meaning of life for you?
Um, love and connection.
Mm, I love that. I love it. Yeah. Do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to add? Anything we didn't touch on before we wrap up?
Yeah, I thought about, because okay, I'm an engineer, right? And so we studied potential and kinetic energy. And so, your podcast is about reaching potential, the higher potential. So potential in science means that all the energy is there.
Mhm.
It just needs to be released to come kinetic. So for your listeners to realize that your potential is already there.
Yeah.
It's looking to be released. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, that's
Mhm.
this thought about that when I with the name of your podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. You just described me, I guess. Yeah. Yeah. Because I knew there was more. It's just accepting my more to be enough. And I hope it's the same for others to realize, hey, like you said, they're not broken. And I
Yeah.
love how you use that, by the way. It's really cool.
Well, I think it is that accepting that where you are now is great. You can want something more. and more. And some people, they're in challenging situations, so, it's not, right? And there are people in poverty, but for the majority of us, right, that would be listening here, your life's good. You can want more,
Yeah.
and find somebody, whether it's a coach or a mentor, that can help you build that path to it. But wanting more doesn't mean you're not already great.
Mm. Wow, that's gonna sit with me for the week, most likely. So I thank you for that.
Mm,
Allison, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for all you do. And thank you for being on the podcast today with me.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.